Original mashup idea. Wednesday Addams, but in an Art Nouveau style. Can I do it? Well, hello there, I'm Detroit. I'm not the best when it comes to fan art. I usually don't bother with it, but a few days ago I watched the Netflix show Wednesday. I remember watching the Addams Family movie when I was a kid, and the trailer for the show looked fun. I guess I'll tell you my thoughts on the show a bit later on. The point is, I wanted to draw the main character, Wednesday, as portrayed by actress Jenna Ortega. However, it would be way out of character for me to simply draw a fan art. Where would the twist be? So I'm using this opportunity to explore a new style, and that is Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau, literally new art in French, is a style that popped at the end of the 19th century. It's closely tied to the Industrial Revolution. One of the staple artists of this genre is of course Alphonse Mucha. I'm sure you've seen this kind of art before. Since Art Nouveau is a decorative and architectural style, there are also buildings and things you might have seen before. A great example are the openings for the metro in Paris, the Paris Underground. I'm not sure how it's called in your part of the world. Anyway, this style is full of twirls and curves, very much inspired by flowers and trees. I think the word I'm looking for is arabesque, defined by Wikipedia as surface decorations based on rhythmic linear patterns of scrolling and interlacing foliage, or tendrils. It is very in tune with what I often draw with ink in my sketchbook. Art Nouveau is a style very similar to Art Deco, that came right after it, albeit it's less angular and not always gold in color. Art Deco is very much inspired by Art Nouveau. Since I'm doing the later today, I should do some Art Deco one day. That would be fun. Back to my sketch. By now you should already see a bit of every element that will compose the finished illustration. I considered centering everything, but it would have felt even less organic, and so I purposefully decided to not center the designs and have it crop the canvas on the right side. If at some point I really want to center the whole thing, a few copy-paste and horizontal flips will be enough to recover the arabesques, which are again the big twirly thingies. I'm quite proud of this Wednesday Addams sketch I whipped out on the spot. I hadn't warmed up either before drawing this, and honestly it feels like a win. The mouth is a bit too much on the side, which I will fix in the finished illustration with a bit of liquify tool. For now we can move on to coloring. Now, the coloring process is a bit of a mess. One thing you can see in the Art Nouveau reference I use is the heavy use of uniform line art. Basically every shape is outlined with black ink. Only I really didn't want to ink all the shapes, because I have a more linear style of inking, linear and angular. Making huge smooth curves is not something I do too much, and with the quantity of twirlies there are, it would have taken forever. So it's time to use a shortcut. Instead of inking the shapes and coloring the inside, I made the shapes using a large round brush and then used the digital tool to automatically outline them with a thin black border. Back to the reference again, you can see that the women on there have very minimal line art. The borders are inked, but inside there are very few actually well-defined lines. It's almost all painting. And so for once, inking the character was pretty fast and simple. Only, it looked so bad, I preferred to keep the sketch on until it was painted, because Wednesday looked really bad. It's the problem with art. There almost always is an ugly face before the illustration is complete. Anyway, that should be it for the inking phase of the drawing. Wait, no. After I flatted the colors, I did ink the mosaic border at the top and left side of the canvas. I had no idea how to do it efficiently at first, and the shortcut I found was to use a pre-made brush with horizontal lines and then vertical lines. It's not angled perfectly, but it will do. After that, it's a lot of selection to color the right squares and make a wave of mosaic squares. Now that every part of this illustration is colored, it's time to render. As I said earlier, every part of the character is rendered without lines. I am therefore going in with a soft brush. The Art Nouveau paintings were probably done with watercolor, but I don't have any experience doing watercolor in Photoshop, so I'll just do the best I can with my usual tools. While I do that, I guess I can tell you my thoughts on the show. I'll keep this spoiler free, because I encourage you to watch it. It's a fun 9 episodes long show. First off, it's refreshing to have episodes that are 1 hour long. I find the pacing in these always much better than on 20 or 40 minutes episodes. If you pay attention to it, you will see that there is never silence in series that are made from 20 minutes episodes. With a full hour, you can build tension and character with silence. It's like the negative space in drawings. It's almost as important as its counterpart. Now, for the series itself, I have to say that as good as it really is for teenagers, I would say. It's a teenage story about teenagers at school, and yet it's quite fun to watch. As a personal preference and expectations, I thought it would delve into the morbid and the dark a bit more. With most of the characters being monsters, and more importantly always talking about death and killing people, I assumed there would be more intentional death. Basically, I thought Nevermore was a school where there was no law, but turns out it's very mild. Actually, even the fantasy aspect is a bit overlooked for my taste. It's like the show is a police drama that happens to have fantastic characters in it. It's not actually a fantastic show. At first when I watched it, I was a bit disappointed also by the fact that the series barely shows the other members of the Addams family. But now that I think about it, that's not true. First off, it shows plenty of them, except maybe the boy, Pugsley. And also the series title literally is Wednesday. And the story does revolve around the main character wanting to separate herself from her mother. So it makes sense. Overall, it's a really fun TV show. I watched it over 3 days and I didn't waste my time, which is very precious to me. And if you were worried about being scared, I think you'll be fine. There are maybe 2 scenes that are a bit bloody, but there isn't too much violence, or even scary things happening. No jump scares and the likes. For real, kudos to the actors, who are all good and fit their characters really well. I just wish the main actress would look a bit more like my rendition of Wednesday I'm painting here though. It would make my drawing even better. I guess it's just too much to ask. In any case, it was fun to draw Wednesday Addams, especially in an Art Nouveau style. And with that said, let's wrap up this drawing. I liquefied the face a bit to look better. What do you think? Tell me in the comments, or maybe tell me which franchise I could represent in an unusual style next. Like the video, subscribe for content until the end of time, and check out my Instagram and Twitter. I'll see you soon. Bye!